Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, my podcast. I'm Will, coming out of the Multidimensional Guide and Pleiadian channel, here to help you awaken, heal, and expand your consciousness. And here I am again at the park, and I just here for a walk. I usually have downloads and ideas, so I just thought maybe I should just record and make another video here. So I'm sending you some light codes from the sun, some nature vibes. We'll see if there's any lizard that will make an appearance today. But I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking, and a question that I get often asked that's related to the dynamic between 3D and 5D in relationships, whether we're talking about relationships with your family members, parents, children, friends, or partners, spouse. That can be very challenging. There is no other way to explain this other than being dualistic, so I will be a little bit dualistic. Thank you. But it's just for the sake of explaining and putting the message across, because in 5D, there's no duality, so it's a non-duality realm. But in 3D, there is, and we understand things through duality and through polarity. So if you're someone who's been consciously walking through this ascension path, this awakening path, and you're not just understanding that there's more than one reality, but you're living, expanding your consciousness and living those multiple realities, understanding that you're a multidimensional being and there's so much more than this physical reality, then you will find it challenging to continue certain relationships where the other person, we'll say the 3D person, again, it's not as dualistic as it sounds, but that person is still very much in that single-minded 3D reality, because that's all they know, and they're still in the programming and the conditioning that we've all once been there. So I think that's one of the main things that I want to share and put across, which is to remind ourselves to have the utmost compassion, unwavering compassion towards them, because we've been there. We understand the programming, we understand the conditioning, and that compassion actually starts within. So find that self-compassion so that you can have compassion. And the other thing too is acceptance, unconditional acceptance of where people are at in their journey. And it could be that people spend a lifetime and they don't awaken, they don't spiritually awaken, and maybe that was even part of their sort of contract, soul's contract, even though I believe that you can break contracts. But having acceptance and not expecting that they will accept where you are, because as you expand and you become aligned with your heart, with your higher self, you start to just be your authentic true self. And maybe you want to start a healing business, maybe you want to travel and go to a retreat or start hosting retreats, whatever that is, and people might not understand. And I think that the hardest thing too is on the day-to-day basis dynamic, where you get triggered, they get triggered, and it's a very unconscious dynamic, energy dynamic, because they can sense that they're losing the version of you that they have for themselves. And so they can feel that. They can feel your expansion. They can feel your healing. They can feel that you're basically living with a more expanded perspective and consciousness. And so they can feel it, and then they'll try really hard to pull you back or drag you down. Again, sounds very dualistic, But the thing is, if you're the one also trying to convince them, trying to get your point across, trying to be right, trying to bring them up, then guess what? You're playing their game. You're playing the 3D game. And yes, you've lost the battle, but you haven't lost the war. But what I'm saying is, it's gonna happen that you will let them, again, unconsciously, you will let them drag you down, pull you back to the 3D reality. But you can still shift your perspective. It's just, I wouldn't even say a test, but it's just like a reminder that, hey, it's easy actually to go back to 3D, but you just can't. There's no going back anymore. And it's not even about not going back to 3D, but merging the 3D reality with all these multiple realities, the 4D, the 5D and beyond. And so that's one thing. And then the second thing is, the more you accept them and you accept yourself and you stay sovereign in your own frequency where you are, you stay true to your beliefs, to your values, to what you're experiencing in this journey, then the dynamic between you and your 3D person will shift, will change. And then two things can happen. Either they will start to accept you more as you accept them more unconditionally, and things get better for you. Maybe for both of you, hopefully for both of you, because there's more acceptance and there's more love. And by the way, all of this is rooted in love, because you care about them, you love them, they love you too. But even their perspective or their understanding of love has to do with attachment, with maybe control. Their soul loves you unconditionally, but their ego loves you conditionally. Their ego loves the version of you that they created in their mind. And you are just getting a more expanded feeling of what love truly is, the unconditional, non-attachment type of love, and love as a state of consciousness. And the other thing that can happen, which is probably the thing that we mostly don't want, is the relationship shifts, the dynamic shifts, but it sort of fades away. You know, maybe the relationship ends. And obviously I'm not even talking about toxic relationships or, you know, relationships with narcissists or abusive people. That's not what I'm talking about. If it is an abusive relationship, then by all means you want it to end, you want to get out of it. But I'm talking about, you know, parents, or sometimes it's the children, spouses, family members, best friends, you know, childhood friends. Yes, sometimes you shift, the dynamic shifts, you accept them, they may not accept you, and then you just fade away and the relationship might end, at least for now. And it's hard. Nobody likes that, nobody wants that, right? And there's also, if this happens, there's also a period of grief that we must go through and accept. And so, all of that to say that it is challenging, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it's the process. It's what we signed up for when we committed to this ascension journey, this ascension process. And one of the biggest themes for the next year and the next decades, and this is something that the Pleiadians have been saying a lot in my group calls and in my sessions and with one-on-one clients too, is the theme of sovereignty. And so staying in your own frequency, staying in your own truth, that is sovereignty. Staying in your heart center, that is sovereignty. Standing behind your values and your decisions, that is sovereignty. So I guess that is the next step in our evolution as well, to understand what sovereignty means to you, and also strengthening this muscle of sovereignty. And it's something I shared yesterday in our solstice session, is that in the beginning, sovereignty doesn't feel comfortable. It will feel uncomfortable, just like if you've never gone to the gym and lifted weights. It's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be painful, you might not want to do it because you've never done it. So it's something that takes time to adjust. So it does take time to adjust and to strengthen the sovereignty muscle and the compassion muscle too. They're very much related. And just to wrap it up, I want to leave you with something that I personally do, because it's a challenge for me to, I always ask myself, well, first of all, if I get triggered and if I behave in a way that I don't like it, and I'm aware that at that moment I got triggered and I was just dragged down to 3D dynamic, I take a deep breath and I just forgive myself. And I have compassion. I bring that compassion to me. But also, I always ask myself, what would love do? Sometimes I ask, what would Christ do? What would Yeshua do? Because the man, Jesus, and I'm not even talking about Jesus from the Bible, talking about Yeshua, the man who embodied Christ consciousness, which is love and oneness and unity consciousness and 5D, right? He was the embodiment of that. And I asked, what would he do? Because he doesn't cut people off. He has that unwavering compassion. And I just ask for a quarter, 10% of his compassion to help me navigate these dynamics and this life. So I hope this helps. If this resonates with you, please leave a message, let me know. And also, if you have a question about this topic, I know it's a big topic, so hopefully I covered something, and hopefully this helps. And I'm sending you so much love. I'll leave a couple of videos about 5D that are not necessarily about relationships, but that might help too. One about sovereignty that I have here. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, for walking with me here at the park, and I'm sending you lots of love. As always, keep shining your light, keep your heart open, and let love lead the way. Bye.